The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
I don't know how many of you grew up watching the Jerry Springer Show. I didn't. I mean, the show was popular when I was growing up, but I didn't grow up watching it. I would probably see 5 minutes when I was homesick from school every once in a while. But it was sort of a mainstay of daytime television for an entire generation or even more. And it turns out that the Jerry Springer Show may be exiting quietly with just a very quiet, inconspicuous halt after about 4,000 episodes. It's not going to fully disappear. NBC Universal said that there are a bunch of networks that have bought the show in syndication, and they're going to air it basically in perpetuity, and that there's a possibility that they might do more original episodes in the future, but that for the time being, the show is coming to an end. And, you know, I like Jerry Springer. He is a progressive guy, former mayor of Cleveland, Ohio, or Cincinnati. Fair enough. One of the C cities in Ohio. Interesting guy, smart guy in a sense. But the show, I felt, was always sort of a destructive force in society. I mean, I don't know. I felt that it took advantage of people who, I'm not about, nanny state stuff, but it did take advantage of people who either for financial reasons or for lack of intelligence didn't understand the sort of damaging impact of agreeing to participate on the show. I found the entire show to be in relatively poor taste. So I don't really care that the Jerry Springer Show is ending. It's more sort of a nostalgia, I think, that I'm feeling for the era of Jerry Springer.
Yeah, you feel like it's, a little bit exploitative or pornographic in a sense.
It's disaster porn.
The thing is, if the show was on for decades, they have plenty of content that they can rerun. I mean, if you just tune in, you're not going to have seen that episode before, most likely.
And it's not like the new episodes are really any different, right? I mean, it's the exact same story. It's paternity tests. It's who's the parent of this person or that person, who's going to be exposed as dating a man that they thought was a woman. It's like the same stuff over and over again. And I don't know that it's of particular sociological and academic value at this point.
I will say the show stopped being as good once they bolted the chairs down.
Oh, did they?
That was the best part, when they would throw a tantrum, chairs being thrown across the room, fight starting. I love that stuff.
I heard an interesting interview a couple years ago when Jerry Springer, I guess like his main security guard, Steve Wilkos, he got a spin-off show at some point, I think years ago, and they appeared together on the Howard Stern show, and Steve Wilkos is very conservative, and Jerry Springer is very progressive, and they both ended up doing similar shows, which tells us that a really good paycheck transcends political ideology, because whatever progressive reasons there might be to shun participation in a program like the Jerry Springer Show, whatever conservative reasons there might be for the same thing, and I don't know if there are any, I'd have to think about it, it seemed to completely transcend the politics of Jerry Springer and Steve Wilkos, and they both were very willing to do these types of exploitative disaster porn shows for a very nice paycheck.
I'd be open to seeing Jerry Springer go back into the world of politics, although this time he would have to avoid paying for a prostitute with a check.
Did he do that?
Yeah, that's the scandal that brought him down.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that. That's
so
interesting.
If he can just pay in cash, I think we'll be good.
Going forward, paying cash or traveler's checks at least, right? I mean, or get a money order. I don't know. Colored bulbs are now being tested in the restrooms of a convenience store, where people who inject heroin and other drugs have been looking for a private place to do that. And the idea is that blue lights can make it more difficult to do intravenous drugs because they make it difficult to see veins. And this is an idea that's been around for a long time, and it's now being considered as maybe another way at the micro level to fight back against the opioid epidemic. And the idea is that the hardcore opiate user wants to be accurate. They don't want to waste drugs with a possible misinjection. And that's the idea of the blue light. And I think that there also might be something psychological about the blue light, although that's not really being cited. There have been some tests done around blue and red lighting. Some airplanes now testing red lighting for nighttime flights. And anyway, that's sort of a sidebar issue, but the main thing is just making it practically difficult to find the veins. I'm not against this. I think that this is a fine idea, although you're not really that's not going to deal with the problem. That's just going to relocate the problem to some other bathroom, by and large.
That's one counter argument. Another one is that it stigmatizes drug use.
Does it,
and
though?
then a third may be that it could be dangerous in a sense, because what if the drug user misses the vein, injects it somewhere else?
Yeah.
Could that be catastrophic for them? Perhaps, yeah.
I guess that's why they're making the argument that that's not a major concern, because a hardcore addict who cannot afford to misinject is more likely to find a different place to do it than to risk misinjecting with the blue light. But, you know, is that really that big of a win? I mean, again, I think it's a win for the convenience store. There is a cafe, which I've mentioned many times because it does a lot of really progressive stuff in Northampton, Massachusetts, called Haymarket Cafe, where whenever I'm out in Western Mass, I will very often be there just doing work on my laptop, and people who are fans of the show will actually see me and come talk to me in there. Very progressive spot. It's a progressive haven, I think we would say. They actually have little signs in the bathrooms now which say, please do not put needles in the trash can. Right around the corner, there's either Tapestry Health or something like that, which has a free, no questions asked needle exchange program or something like that. And anything that you see like that is geared around harm reduction, right? Which is, there's no sign that's going to get a heroin a user who's addicted to just get off of heroin.
Yeah.
But we at least can prevent maybe somebody else who works there and is taking out the trash from getting stuck with a used needle that's in the trash, right? So it's all, the harm reduction is the mentality.
Yeah, the lighting in the bathrooms of cafes and convenience stores is not going to solve the opioid epidemic.
I don't even know if it's a harm reduction thing. Maybe,
Yeah.
I mean...
it's a sad reflection on where we are right now with it all, isn't it?
It's more of like a practical and depressing reality, I think, more than anything else. Self-driving cars are now allowed to cruise on all roads right here in Boston, even during the wild and wacky morning commute, during which producer Pat has sometimes been almost hit by a car.
That's happened?
A car driven by a David Pakman Show fan, who then said hi to you or something like that, right? Or was that two different stories?
Oh, no. Okay. So I was riding my bicycle down the bike lane on Mass Ave, right? And someone was getting out of a parked car.
Oh, okay.
And he was the passenger.
Got it.
Opens up the car door, nearly hits me. I have to like swerve and get out of the way, but it's okay because I'm coming at a red light, so I'm slowing down anyway.
Right.
Not a big deal. He's very apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't see you there. I'm like, no, it's cool. It's cool, man. I conducted myself very respectfully, professionally. Great thing. So I'm waiting at the red light on my bicycle. He goes to the crosswalk to cross the street, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Wait, Pat?" And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I'm always polite to people, like wait staff. I'm polite to everybody. But now I actually go out of my way, because I used to have the sense that I would always realize it if someone recognized me somewhere, right? But now it's happened a few times, including once a few months ago at a restaurant in Boston called the Salty Pig, which, despite the name, I was able to have an entire meal without having any pork products, to my knowledge. And we had very friendly wait staff, and nothing, nothing of note took place. But then the next day, I got an email from our waiter who said, I didn't want to interject during your meal, and I hope that this isn't inappropriate. I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm a big fan, and one of the other employees is a big fan, and we really loved having you in the restaurant. And I, of course, said, "Oh, I wish you had said hi. Like, I have no problem. There's nothing so important happening in a dinner with a few friends that I can't be interrupted just to say hello, of course."
Maybe they would think it was embarrassing to
Maybe
you or
so.
whatever.
But that reminded me that I just need to make sure to be extra polite all the time, because imagine that on the assumption that nobody in there knows who I am, I maybe treat someone less than politely. And then it turns out that all along they knew that it was David Pakman from the David Pakman Show, and I just make an ass out of myself.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it was just good luck in a sense, because I tend to be very short-tempered out and about. I mean, if I'm in an establishment or around people I know, I'm very nice, cordial, personable, happy.
Right.
But I can get mean too.
Yeah. This guy's lucky you didn't kick him in the chest like the guy on the floor of the Paris subway. That would have been a disaster. Okay. So back to the story. Nutonomy is the company. We've talked about them before. They've been testing autonomous cars in Boston for more than a year. They were at first in an industrial park. Then they were in the Seaport District out east of David Pakman Show studios. And then they did a pilot program with passenger vehicles, and now they are expanding this even further. They also have a pilot program in Singapore. I think this is great. I know that we've had these anecdotal stories of people who have been hurt or even killed by autonomous cars. And of course, people are killed every day by human drivers as well. I continue to believe that this endeavor of autonomous vehicles has the potential to be one of the most harm-reducing changes to vehicle transit in the history of vehicle transit for humans, which is at this point about a 120-year-old endeavor. And I think that this is great. And I'm glad that this is being done here in Boston because the roads are so wacky here because they were built for horse carriages. Everything's circular. It's insane. You make one wrong turn, you end up in Winthrop or somewhere instead of downtown. Before you can turn around and come back over 2 bridges and a tunnel, that if it can be done here, then it can be done anywhere.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And they're deliberately confusing. I think when the colonists mapped out Boston, they wanted to confuse the British.
Is that true?
So that's why there's no school on School Street. There was no church on Church Street. I don't know if that matters so much anymore, but it goes to show how they were trying to make it confusing and how the roads wind around. So I agree. If they can do it here, they can do it anywhere.
And of course, save some exceptions like parts of Asia, for example, where I know the driving is even wackier than in Boston. But as far as the United States goes, I maintain that New York City has more aggressive driving, but it is much better driving than here in Boston. The driving in Boston is atrocious. It is unpredictable, and it is only made worse by the fact that other than some neighborhoods like South Boston and the Newbury Street Back Bay area, it's not really a grid system like much of New York has, and it is absolute and total chaos.
I hear Miami is really bad too because there isn't that systematic approach to driving, and I hear that people will just like pull over, you know, not even in a parking lane, in the middle of a lane, and start talking to someone.
Well, that happens in South Boston quite a bit. I didn't experience bad driving in Miami, really. No, and even, you know, Miami Beach has basically a grid system. A lot of Miami does as well. I didn't experience that. I've always seen that it's Massachusetts and New Jersey that seem to have the worst driving in the country.
Yeah, I would like to see a ranking, you know, cities with not the worst. Well, yeah, I guess it would be the worst driving.
I think we have
the worst
that.
Commuting times or whatever.
Don't we have
else?
by state? Maybe not by city, but by state. I think it's consistently Massachusetts and New Jersey.
Massholes represent.
Yeah, it's horrible and it's completely accurate. That's it for today's bonus show. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.